What is up? For anyone who's watching this after the fact, as a video as opposed to a live stream, these live streams are sponsored by Two Bastards, Texas Smithy and Supply. These people right here. Phone number down there. I have linked in every video that I do. They sponsor all my hammers. It's Frank and Nita. Those are the Two Bastards. We'll talk about them more during the live stream. But we'll see who hops on here first. Mule Power Forge, hitting it with the first person to chime in on the live stream. What's going on? It feels fantastic outside today. It is 86 outside. What's going on, Jason? So, tonight, what's up, Crab? Oh, yeah, no, what's up? So, tonight, we're going to be forging a piece of, I think it's 1080. Is this 80 CRV2? 80 CRV2. Too many pieces of steel. Blistering hot in Alberta. I wonder what blistering hot is like up there, which is probably not hot at all. So, got a piece of 80 CRV2. We're going to be forging it into a gaucho knife. Now, I'm going to try and do it an integral bolster with this build. It's going to be a through Tang. So we're going to be forging a through Tang. It's a really long Tang that can have a cap pinned over on it. 30 degrees Celsius. So we're going to be doing of course, if you don't know what a gaucho knife looks like, here's a rough profile right here. It's kind of like a chef's knife that gauchos use to actually fight. It resembles a chef's knife a lot, but it's going to have an integral bolster, a through Tang, just a nice sleek profile. And with this, the steel is only about 1/4 of an inch thick. We're going to do an integral bolster. So what I've got to do is I've got to upset the width quite a bit. So whenever I go to forge in this step down from the heel up into the area that's going to be the bolster, that transition, I'm going to have to keep a lot of that steel moving widthwise. And then we're going to create kind of an integral bolster as we do it. I don't know how wide we're going to be able to get, but we're going to try and upset that enough so we can get as much width as possible so that I can turn a piece of flat bar into something that's going to have an integral bolster. But that is what we're going to start off with. So we're going to go ahead and forge in just the tip of this. Calm down. And we're going to go ahead and forge that in so that I have something easier to hold with the tongs. So right now you can't really hold this very well, but because we're going to have to do a lot of upsetting in this area, I need to get the tip forged in at least to where it's brought down enough to have a point to where it's easy to grab with these tongs right here. And then we're going to really start getting after it, because the bolster in the Tang area is where a lot of the material is going to get really moved in. That's the area that a lot of stuff has to go somewhere else. The blade profile, not so much, because we're just going to be forging in a decent blade profile. We're going to be doing a distal taper, all that stuff. But a lot of the movement happens in this section right here, and I need to get a good grip on it so that I can actually shift all of that. So I'm going to toss it in the forge in the tip, and go from there. Now, I've never really made a gaucho knife. I've probably made knives that are kind of similar to a gaucho knife, but I've never made an actual gaucho knife. Now, I've been watching a few episodes of, sorry, I know I did. So, I was watching a few episodes of Forged in Fire. I've been just watching a few of them because I'm going to be going to a show where I'm actually going to do a 3-hour live forging in Conroe, Texas. And I have been kind of getting ideas for what type of thing I want to forge and how close I want to forge it to finish and things like that. So, because we're going to be doing a judging for a forged in fire style build off that they're doing for that. And I was like, you know what? I watched a few of these episodes and they forged a gaucho knife, and I thought, I never really forged one of those. I kind of want to make one of those. A fighting chef's knife sounds kind of cool. So as soon as this gets hot, we'll start swinging at it. We're going to be working with the old Two Bastards Delicate Hammer, because why not? We're going to be rocking a little bit of both of the fat peens from Two Bastards. Of course, this one's a fat peen with a flat on the side, cross peen, straight peen, fat peen. Because we're going to be doing a slight integral bolster area, I need to have those hammers on deck for that. And of course, we'll be using a little bitty auto body hammer whenever we start doing some splanishing. And then for this, that should be pretty much most of what we need. If I need to, I might end up using the little Markling Two Bastard collab rounding hammer. So I'm going to have all those down here. I tend to put all of the hammers that I'm going to be using, I take them off the rack that's back here and put them on the floor. So all I got to do is grab them and go. Argentina. I've seen them. So yeah, I would agree with you on a lot of different knives. Like the Argentinian gaucho knives are beautiful. So if you go to a Blade Show, Atlanta, a few of the just most beautiful gaucho knives that you'll ever see are on the tables there. It's just, it's awesome. And I'm not even going to do one like kind of how they do them. Some of them, the integral bolster area has like real nice file work on it. They're kind of like done like a spindle or something like that. This is for something completely different, but you'll see like work like this into their bolster area and stuff like this. It's really cool. That's for a different thing that I'm working on. But yes, I would agree with you. Some of them make absolutely beautiful knives. All right, so we're gonna grab these old ridiculous big old tongs. Just need this to build up some heat. So what are y'all working on right now? And I know that there's not a whole bunch going on right now because we haven't started forging, so this is only as interesting as it can be. What I can show y'all is the base for my post-apocalyptic challenge, for the YouTube Knife Makers Challenge. That's the base for it. That's basically the handle. It's gonna be crazy, and I think y'all are gonna absolutely love what I'm gonna make for this challenge. It's gonna be so ridiculous. So ridiculous. Alright. Grab this with the other tongs, just because if you're going to be forging in a tip or something like that, you don't really want to use like regular wolf jaw style tongs. Come in, the angle. We're just going to start forging this area down into here. tapering this out and getting more of a point on there. And as this starts gathering heat in there, it'll stay hot longer. Oh, the next one's a frontier challenge. I think that would be cool. Frontier or like a pirate or something like that style challenge. God, this light beam right here is ridiculous from the sun outside. That is like the brightest amount of light. Your drill press, follow along with you. That's awesome. Even though it's not incredibly hot, still gotta stay hydrated. Start getting more of a point. Go back in. Working on a semi-frontier buoy. The guard crack, but I won't be able to get the. And that sucks. I hate it whenever I have stuff that cracks, especially whenever you get to the point to where you're actually working on a guard or something like that, because you've actually been working on that build for a little while. That stuff's rough. I've had a few builds that have done that where, if y'all remember, I did a buoy back in the days, like a couple of years ago. It's a long buoy that had the antler and the paduk for the handle, and the guard it had a slit cut into it, like a U that went around the blade, and then it was peened into place. The first one that I did, I heat treated it, but I didn't temper it, the guard. So whenever I went to, tap it to where that, I guess you can say that fork area went around it went around the ricasso, it snapped off one of the fork ends or whatever. So I had to go through and completely create another one, which sucked. Like, there was a lot of work that went into that guard, and it just basically went into the trash. All because I didn't temper it. But I had to heat treat it because it was getting acid etched and it needed to be the same color as the blade. And if you have heat treated steel and non-heat treated steel, it doesn't etch the same. Starting to get a point. Now the thing with the gaucho knife is it has a long sleek blade, so this is going to end up getting squished a lot. But what we want to do is get it brought down enough to where it's able to be confidently held by the tongs here. So we just need to bring it down quite a bit more in this area, and we should be pretty much good. Go ahead and start forging in our Tang and Bolster area. What's up? How you going? What's up, Lucas? Car cracked in the forge. So making the whole thing from old wagon parts. So that's pretty cool. So are you using like the wrought iron, the wagon wheel, stuff like that? The wrought iron that went into the Viking challenge is off of a wagon wheel. I still have a good chunk of that. Yeah. So that right there is from a wagon wheel. Big old radius right there. Metal probably isn't the best though. You'll find out, that's for sure. As long as you do a sand mine and have the center core be known still, you'll see we'll start tapering quite a bit on these next few heats, bringing that down to a nice finer point. I made these tongs for working with stock like this whenever I was just getting into knife making and I didn't have any blacksmithing tongs. All I had was just random things. I made these out of some angle iron that I bent into U's, and I just welded them to the front of some snips. And they have worked so well for 2-inch stock, because when I first started forging, I was using a bunch of leaf spring material. It was all 2-inch, so 2-inch by about 1/4 of an inch. And I've used these tongs since I started forging. These were the first tongs that I was really using whenever I first got into this. And I still use them for stock like this. One of these days I'll end up making a different pair, but for right now, it works. Wish I could hear that car that just drove by. Got a friend that lives down here. He actually works with me at Pepsi, and he's got a car that he drives around. It's like 1,500, 1,600 horsepower. Sounds like a monster. Got Brazil in the house. So I am forging a gaucho knife. It's going to be a through Tang construction. So the Tang is going to be to where it goes all the way through the handle and is pinned over on a butt cap. We're going to be doing an integral bolster. This is just kind of like a rough idea for it. So that's what we're going to be forging. We're forging it out of a chunk of 80 CRB2. I'm going to be upsetting the shoulders of the ricasso area and widening it so that I have an integral bolster. So we're starting with flat bar, and we're going to do an integral bolster with it. At least that's the goal. But right now we're forging in the point. glasses are trying to come off my face. If you're new to the live streams, what I want to tell you is, for one, this steel is still glowing hot. A lot of people think that because they see the light shining on how it is right here, that it's cold, but it is still, that's cold, that is not. So it's a lot hotter than what it looks like while I'm forging. I'll have a lot of people that watch, you know, only every once in a while, and they'll think, hey, why are you forging so cold? I'm not forging cold, just the light shining in here and onto my anvil makes it seem that way. The website available to purchase knives? I do. It is The Rivers Experience, just like the channel. TheRiversExperience.com. Favorite style knife? I do like Sax's. That is actually really one of my favorites. So I'm done. I did this Sax on one of the live streams. So this has a hand forged fuller. So the fuller's forged and everything. That's one of the Saxes that I did on the live stream. Always fun. And this one, we're doing a gaucho style knife. We're forging the whole entire thing by hand. Right now we're working on forging the tip end so that I can hold it with different tongs, and then we're going to be forging in a through tang construction. So it's going to be kind of like a hidden tang, but instead of having just a little tang, it's a tang that goes all the way through the handle. That should be good enough, because what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and forge the transition from, go ahead and switch tones real quick. So what we need to do now is go ahead and decide how much material we're going to need for the Tang. So this is going to be for the bolster, the Tang, and everything. So for that, all I want you to do is kind of visualize how many segments I can take off of this area to create a Tang. I really probably only need about this much material. This much material right here. I could create a Tang. A long tang that would go all the way through with that. So then I need to go up to about right here for my bolster area to make sure that we have enough material. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to put a notch at the bottom here. So we're going to hang it off the anvil, and we're going to do a notch. Right there. So we got a little notch right here. Everything back here is going to be handle material. Everything from that notch forward is going to be blade material. It's plenty of material to be able to do what we need to do. So now we can go ahead and put it in the forge. Now, things that I have to focus on during this phase. So this is going to be kind of important. I'm going to end up bringing y'all down to the anvil level here. So to be able to achieve this section right here, and I want to show you the goal real quick. Let me get one of my Sharpies. So you can't really see it from this angle right here. From this angle, everything looks flat. But this section right here is going to actually be wider than the overall blade. So what we're going to end up having, if you looked at it from the top down, is we'd have a blade, a bolster, and then a tang. It's not a very good one, but this bolster area, this section, if you looked at it from the top down, is this section. So this section is wider than the rest of the blade. Now the blade will have a distal taper. It'll taper from this area down to the tip, so from this area down to the tip. But we've got to create this thickness by upsetting the steel. So basically what we got to do right now, we have kind of this shape right here. We need to take and start forging in here and really come up high here and move as much of this steel right here into width in this section. So it's not just gonna, we're not just gonna pull up a little section here. This whole entire thing, this whole section is gonna end up moving up like that. But all this material needs to go into width, not length. A lot of the times when we start forging in this area here, we do that and the material we end up doing this. We end up creating a wedge like that, and all this material here ends up going into length. But we want it to just move up and go into width. So that's what we're going to be doing as we're forging this next heat here. We're going to be trying to get the material to move in a direction where it doesn't typically like to move. What I'm going to be doing is, if you've watched me forge in the past, you'll know that typically whenever I'm doing this step, I'm hammering it in at a pretty steep angle. Bring y'all down here. Typically hammering with this like this, where there's a big gap underneath here, and I'm coming in at an angle, and I'm trying to create a wedge. What I want to do right now is slightly planish, and then keep hammering, but I'm hammering it almost just straight vertical on here. And I'm trying to just squish the steel in whenever I'm doing this. Because again, the goal of this is to compact the steel, not extend it. I want to widen the steel. And I haven't done this before. So when it comes to a lot of the things, I've forged a lot of stuff. And I've done things that kind of make my mind think that this is going to end up working out. But we're going to experiment on this. So that is the goal for this. And when you start thinking through material management and how you're going to get things in specific areas, a lot of this is, when you're looking at the steel, it's only going to move certain directions. It's either going to go lengthwise or widthwise. Okay, we're going with three things. It's going to go length, width as in thickness, or height. So if we're forging it and we're trying to make it taller, we can stretch it out that way. If we're trying to make it longer, we can stretch it out that way. But what I'm trying to do is make it wider. So that's why I'm trying to compact the steel and then go through and just planish it as we go. Because if I don't, what will end up happening is we'll get an I-beam effect. We'll get it to where just the top and the bottom of that area is wide, but not the overall width. So we've got to just play with this and get it to do the thing we want it to do. And I spend a lot of time experimenting like this, just seeing what I can make happen. Typically what I would be doing during this phase, you can see that there is a shadow right here. So what's going to end up happening is that shadow, I would typically be planishing all that material back into the same height as this. What that is this section is taller than the center section. But I'm not smashing that in as much, or I'm not planishing that back down because I want that to eventually end up being the width that I need it to be, or the thickness that I need it to be. All right. So we're going to keep that going there. I think the sun's actually down enough to where I can open this door. Perfect. Oh, that's going to let a nice breeze in. So the cool thing is it's only about 85 degrees Fahrenheit outside today. Typically it's a lot hotter than that. We've got nice weather. So, like I said, typically what would end up happening is instead of, let's see here. That's bad. That time loop working. Has to hit metal 17 times. What's up, DL? What's up, Nug? So, when it comes to a lot of the stuff that I do, yes, I'm setting things up to go specific areas. So, we're wanting to not completely smash that I-beam effect all the way down in because I'm going to end up shifting that material towards the center when we actually get to that point. So I'm going to end up shifting that material to a different spot where I want it to go whenever we actually do that. David, we are making a knife. We're making a gaucho knife. Right now we're working on the bolster / Tang area. We're not going too crazy with how hard I'm hitting it. Because I really just want to get the material to move to the area that it needs to go. And that is adding width, not length. Again, you can see that this area that's shiny right here, all of that material, whenever I get to the center, will start going where I want it to go. But you can see we're starting to add width right there. When will you see the forge welding projects? Whenever I start getting a lot more time to do that stuff. So I might be changing positions at my job a little bit. We'll see how that goes. And that'll make it to where I have more time to do YouTube related stuff. But right now, there we go. Right now I'm doing the YouTube Knife Makers Challenge, which is a really big build. We've got another big build happening. Plus I'm prepping for the Dragon Forge experience, where I'm going to be gone for like 2 months. I am going to be doing a teaching event at the Conroe Knife Show, at another event at the Texas Farrier Supply, Hammer In. I've got so much stuff that I've got to prep for. I'm going to have a booth at the Conroe show, so I've got to make sure that I finish knife projects so I have knives to sell at that show. There are so many projects happening right now that trying to focus on also doing other things like that is just not in the cards. Not until about December. Whenever December hits, I'll be able to do so many other things, but it's all got to end up falling into line. You know what I mean? What's up, Matt? Because I've got to be able to do this and not get burned out at the same time. Now that I-beam should be centered, because what's happening is the width was adding itself more to one side than the other. But we still got a lot to compact down there. And I don't know how wide we're going to be able to make this, or what exactly I'm going to be able to do style-wise with this. But I have a pretty big plan on how I'm going to end up making this thing work, as long as it actually works. Let's see here. So here in Michigan, getting a cold snap from Canada. Yeah, we're getting a little bit more heat back next week too. It's only going to be in the 90s though. Yeah, we are forging a gaucho knife today, Mr. Rich. Gaucho knife, and I'm going to be creating kind of an integral bolster area out of flat bar. So Matt's actually seen the design for the YouTube Knife Makers Challenge that I'm working on. Y'all can ask him how cool it is. see, we're starting to get a decent amount of width there, going from that section right there to that section right there. Hopefully I can double this in width. That's the goal. So this right here is a home-built forge. Anyone suggesting for a YouTube challenge for me? There are plenty of things that you can make. So for the person who was talking about choking up on the hammer, so for one, just like they said, I'm not framing a house. You don't swing a forging hammer from back here. Okay? If you do that, you will absolutely obliterate so many sections of your arm holding it like this whenever you are forging. You don't want to do that. You want to focus on, it's not about the amount of force you can get behind it. It's the amount of control with being able to get good force. So choke up on the hammer, let this thing pivot in your hand, and you're using your shoulder, your elbow, your arm, and you're really getting after it right there. Okay? You do not hold it like this. You hold it here. Some people hold it all the way up here. This right here, good, comfortable, being able to get in here, do your thing. Also, that's how I've been forging for years now. Do you bladesmith? If you do, let me know. Maybe you can teach me something. We're starting to get our width in there. Let's see here. Hit it back in the handle. It's awesome to have you here, Daniel. Yeah, and if I'm going through it, I'm framing a house, yeah, I do swing from back here. But again, for forging, it's all about control. You can be swinging the biggest hammer and just getting after it like this if you want to, or two hands and getting after it with all the leverage. But if you are not controlling your hammer blows and hammer strikes, all of that work is useless. You need to be able to move the material where it needs to go to be able to have an affecting forging experience. It's all about control. And material manipulation. Right now, I'm not trying to go after. If I was trying to go after it, you'll see material moves a lot faster. We're not trying to do that right now. That ain't the point. Right now, we're trying to achieve something. So we're fine-tuning. Okay, so I'm going to leave it how it is right there for right now. We're going to end up making this narrower, but if you see here, this is easily 2.5 times as thick as our blades are going to end up being, which is going to be good for our integral. What we need to do now, though, is we need to go ahead and shift. If you see up here, this spine, how it comes up and then drops down, even though that looks kind of cool, we don't want that. So we need to shift this whole entire Tang area up and shift this material down. So we're going to do that on this next heat. Basically what we're going to end up doing, hang it off the edge, hit there on that hump, shift all that down, and kind of start getting everything where it needs to be. Now, the reason why I'm not going to continue working on that bolster area is because I was able to get quite a bit of width on there. What I need to do now is fine-tune the blade profile, because the rest of the forging on that area can be, after the blade is like 75% done, because at that point we're just going to be moving it a little bit. Now, what I'm probably going to go ahead and do is take that area that's going to be the through tang, and I'm going to go ahead and forge that down and pretty long so that that's kind of out of the way. I'm not going to go too crazy with it because I can mess with that after the blade is pretty much completely done. Because at that point, we're just basically making a long tang. The tang is not a big deal. That can be forged after the blade's completely done. But what I want to go ahead and do is get to the blade section, because what's going to end up happening is while I am going through and forging the blade profile, if I get a hammer blow on that bolster area, I need to be able to correct it later. So I need to have a little bit of extra material to play with in order to fix a screw up if I screw something up. So we only want to get it to about where it's at right now, not go too crazy. We're going to keep bringing that down just a little bit more. The cool thing about this is letting people see that you don't have to make the blade look absolutely beautiful the entire time you're forging. It can look like a mangled mess. The whole point is, during the actual material moving section, the actual putting things where it needs to go, you can have that thing looking like an ugly potato. Okay, it does not have to look pretty. The next phases, where we're actually starting to really fine tune a blade profile, or a bolster, or a handle profile, that's where everything starts really looking like a blade. But at this phase, we're just trying to get the material to the spots that it needs to go to, and then we can really start fine tuning it. So as of right now, we have a heel, we have a tip, we have a bolster, we have an area that's going to be the tang. We have all those. So now what I've got to do is start fine tuning everything and really making it look like a blade, really making it look like a bolster, really making it look like a tang. You know, we do all the big hammer swings and I do all the adjustments and all that stuff to get the material where it needs to go, and then start making it look cool. But where some people will waste a lot of energy, they'll try and make it look cool the entire time. You don't need to do that. All we're doing right now is just getting us some extra length out of this. Like I said, I'll end up taking that area and fine tuning it later, forging it down a little bit without having to worry too much about the blade profile or anything like that. But we want to get this pre-stuff done beforehand. And if y'all don't know what I'm forging, or if y'all have never been here, I'll show you what I'm making. The actual goal here is to forge out this thing. Something that looks like that right there. With a wider bolster area, which is basically this area if you're looking down the blade at the spine of it, a little bit wider there. That's the goal for this. Right now we're working on what's going to end up being through tang. What I mean by that is the tang goes all the way through the handle and comes out the back side of it. Okay, plenty of tang narrowed out for us that I can end up pinching down later. So now we're going to go ahead and shift the spine. So shift the spine of the knife down a little bit. All we're going to do to achieve that, basically we're going to take that heel that we have forged here, stick that on the edge of the anvil like that, and we're going to forge where that hump is down the spine, and we're going to end up holding it here, and we're going to boom, hit here and shift that spine down, and that's going to end up taking it and straightening the spine, because right now it's kind of like this, how it has a hump in it. We're going to hammer on that hump there and shift it down. Get us a little bit warmer, and we'll go ahead and shift that down real quick. All right, let's do this thing. So right now we have a bump in the spine. Put that there. So we've taken a lot of that bump out. So now it gradually comes down. Heat it back up one more time. And then we'll be able to shift it down one more time. The cool thing is what this does is because we're shifting that material from up here down, it gives us more of a heel right here. So where this section right here comes down, because your hand is going to ride in here. And we just brought that even more down so that we have more of a little bit of height to it. Now these blades aren't super tall, so we don't want to make a super tall blade. But we do want to have a little bit of height there. There's our heel. This area right here is going to make way more sense whenever I start really focusing on that area. Right now it just looks like a mess, but don't worry. It's already doing what I need it to do. And again, you're not trying to make a beautiful knife the whole entire time. You're trying to get everything to go where it needs to go. File off a little area where the tongs marred the edge just a little bit. You don't want that to fold back over into your blade and create a cold shut. And what happened is, so I can show you exactly what I'm talking about here. So this little area here where I just filed, what ends up happening is this round shoulder of that tong will just bite into the blade a little bit, and it will kind of round the edge over and try and fold that material back into the blade. But right now, we want to go ahead and grab it from the Tang side. And you can see we already have what looks like a chef's knife. So that's there. The profile is there. We just need to do all the stuff to get the profile exactly how we want. And what we're going to do is we're going to focus on length. We're not going to focus on height. So we already have a decent amount of height. We need to focus on length. So as I'm forging this, I'm going to be pinching the steel. I'm going to be pinching the steel this way more than trying to pull down a heel like we do. We're going to be going this way. Let's see here. Are those dog-faced hammers better? I like the dog head hammer quite a bit. I'm having to go back through y'all's comments just a little bit. And yes, it's building up in a controlling manner, so. Deja Vu finished 2 gaucho knives, yep. You gotta try it out. What's up, Mark? You over in Atlanta? That's cool. Working on one that could be a TRE design. I'm always interested to see what that looks like. So for the people, while this is heating up, so this is what we forged in last weekend's live stream. So I did one that was kind of based on the OG Franchi on YouTube, the EDC that he does. So this has this tail forged into it. This is going to be for a lanyard to hold on to. And of course we have the, put you there for a second, full profile, finger choil, fingers. That comes out perfectly just out the back side here. So you can actually put a lanyard on there. It's got the bevels forged in, distal to the tip. But that's all hand forged. Super comfortable. The weight on it right now is balanced right at the finger choil. Pictures of these TRA mads and description. Oh, I'll be putting them in there. Or are you talking about the ones that they're doing? Alright, let's get this back out. We're going to switch to a slightly longer, or shorter, smaller, whatever we call it, tong. Let's refine this blade profile. So I've got the spine on the anvil right here, and I am forging. So basically what's happening here is I've got it long ways so that as I'm forging it, I'm moving this up. So I'm straightening the spine out overall. Because this has typically just a nice taper towards the tip. It doesn't have a big arch to it. So the spine is pretty straight on a lot of these. So all I'm doing is I'm coming in and I'm just hammering all the way down here, and I'm shifting this material down towards the anvil to kind of flatten it out. Now of course we still need to get length out of this, so all I'm doing right now is just focused on kind of getting that profile in line, and then we're going to start hammering with the straight peen and stretching this material out. Right now, the blade, wish I had one of my smaller rulers. Right now, the blade is 7 inches long. From heel to tip, we're at 7 inches long. I would like for that blade to be about 8.5 inches long. So if I can get an extra 1.5 inches out of the length, I'll be good there, because the overall length of this knife will end up being about, that would put it at about 13.5, 14 inches long. So overall length, about 13.5 to 14 inches, which is pretty cool. Good length for a gaucho knife. So what we're going to be using on this next heat are these two hammers right here. So this is a straight peen, meaning that the peen actually runs in line with the handle. And this is a fat peen, so it's wider than a normal cross peen, straight peen that you would see. And then I'm going to be using the cross peen, straight peen right here, also one of the fatter ones. I got a little bit of epoxy on this, the face of this one. I need to clean that off so we don't end up messing up the finish of our blade there. good there. Get that little bit of a epoxy off of there. You know how it goes when you're gluing up around here. I prefer gas. I'm not a big cold forge person. Not that there's anything wrong with cold forging or anything like that. I just don't prefer to do it. So there's a nice, pretty traditional chef's knife profile right there. If we were going for a chef's knife profile. Like I said, on this next heat, we're going to be using the straight peen, and we are going to be forging from here forward, stretching all that material while we're pinching it down and thinning it out. We're also going to be moving it to the end of the blade. While I'm doing this, the thing that I want to focus on is I want to keep that bolster area that we made wider. So this area right here, which is also this area right here, I want to keep that off of the anvil face. So while we are forging, we need the anvil shoulder to always be right there. Okay? Because what's going to end up happening is if you bring that shoulder up here, what's going to end up happening is you're going to get a big dent right there. So you want to keep the shoulder on the blade section, not the bolster section. Not until we start trying to refine that bolster area. Right now, we need to keep that blade as much off of the bolster as much off of the anvil face as we can. It's fun being able to experiment with this while I have y'all on here. So I've seen a lot of people make propane forges out of all kinds of stuff, but the coal forges, I've seen people make them out of so many different things. It is absolutely crazy. Just dig a hole in the ground, get yourself a hair dryer. It's nuts. They're making moonshine or something like that, but they're just making it. Okay, so again, bolster off the edge of the anvil. Flip it, same thing. What we're doing, you can see there's a bunch of lines going up and down on this. So all these lines are vertical. What that's going to do is that is going to pinch the material, and the material's got to go somewhere. If the hammer blows or like this, the material is either going to go this way or this way. And that's going to give me length. If I was hammering like this, right here, that's going to give me height. Okay? We're just going to keep doing that as we're pinching the blade down and forging in our distal tipper. distal taper. So basically, if you don't know what a distal taper is, I shall show you. Let's do one. This is a good profile that has it. So this has a distal taper to the tip and the tang, meaning that it tapers down to the end here and to the tip. Actually, I've got an even better one that shows it even more. Serbian cleaver. This, thick to thin, thick to thin. So forging in that distal, we're going to end up doing that to the tip, take a lot of that meat out of the blade, getting thin as we go. Keeps you from having to grind a whole lot in the end. And so we're not having to do two types of hammering. If we're going to go ahead and start stretching it, we might as well stretch it and thin it at the same time. We're really going to start thinning out that blade, but you can see how much thicker the bolster area is than the blade. And do not worry about it being like this or anything like that. All that gets fixed in the planishing. But just from what we're done right there, so just from that, our blade has grown almost half an inch. So just from that bit of, just from that little bit of using the straight peen, we have grown half an inch in length. Let's see here. Yep, and we are making a gaucho knife. You know, one of the best parts about doing these lives is having everybody be able to communicate in the chat like that as I'm doing something. So if I'm not able to answer the question, there are a ton of people in the chat to be able to answer those questions as well, not just me. But you actually get to see me doing the thing and then question it in the moment and have somebody answer it right off the bat, which is really cool about the live streams. It's one of those things where if I release a video, a lot of those questions don't get answered for days and stuff like that, so it's a lot easier to do those during this. It's one of my favorite parts about this, is having the chat section immediately be able to ask questions. How long does that tank last? That tank will last me through forging blades like this, about 6 blades like this. If I'm just knocking them out and I'm making a bunch of EDCs, I can make 15 blades easily. But right now I'm running at about 12 psi because I'm only using half of the forge. So this is a 2-burner forge. I have a block-off plate blocking off the other burner at the back section of the forge. So I'm actually only using about, as I move the plate back, about 11 inches of an 18-inch chamber. I'm only using about 11, and I'm only using one of the burners. And I'm running a little bit lower PSI. Keep going, stretching it out. back in the heat. So on this next heat, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and switch back to the dog hand hammer. And I'm going to flatten all that out. So what that's going to do, right now I've created a whole bunch. I've been able to extend it by creating all these little pinch points in it. So right now what we have is a whole bunch of valleys and peaks going all the way down it. So what's going to happen is whenever I flatten all that and I push all those peaks, even with the valleys, all of that material has got to go somewhere. So it's going to go down, go to length, because we're going to be flattening, correcting the profile, flattening, correcting the profile. So we're pushing it all into length, and then if it expands and makes the profile taller, forge that back in, move it back into length. So everything that we're about to do in this next heat is going to give us all length. And that's what we want, because these knives are not super tall, so we don't need a really tall heel on it. We want a nice, long, sleek blade, a little bit of integral bolster, our through Tang profile, nice gaucho knife. Flip back to the other side. On that profile. Keep our profile nice and even as we go. We're really going to be thinning out that blade. And you can see how wide our bolster area is now compared to that blade. We're just going to keep bringing it down. Switch back to the straight peen and stretch it one more time. Let's see here. Y'all are talking about forges, awesome. Casting, forging and hammering metal, going through tempering heat cycles, exactly what Miss River said. So I have some diagonal peen hammers that are going to be getting made, and I'll be using them too. So that's what some of the other ones that I want to get from Two Bastards. Again, if y'all didn't know this, Two Bastards, Texas Smithy and Supply, those are the people who make the hammers that I use in this. You know, these people right here. It's Frank and Nita. They've been doing this for 6 years, supplying knife makers, blacksmiths. Cool thing about them is you can talk with them and actually meet them at shows, or just talk to them online, or call them on the phone and be able to actually talk with them about what you need to be able to either use in your shop currently or what you might need moving forward. Now we are going to bring one of my lights over here so that we are actually lit up a little bit better. There we go. Now we have a little bit of light in this area. Go ahead and grab this back out. Okay, so I should be able to do the rest of it. So you can see again, those hammer blows that we have there, going down both sides, all going up and down the blade. Let's see right now where we're at lengthwise. So right now we are at 8 inches long. My goal was 8.5 inch from the heel to the tip. We are at 8 inches already. So we should be able to get the rest of the length from these next couple of heats by flattening the blade and fixing the profile. Again, I'm going to be doing one of these things live in Conroe, Texas. So it's going to be Conroe, which is just north of Houston, Texas. I'm going to be doing this at a show there for 3 hours. So it'll be forging, doing a Q&A, all that type of stuff, and then we'll be judging some Forged and Fire style competition knives and all that type of stuff with Doug Markiden. It'll be pretty cool. It's going to be a cool event. If you're in that area, definitely make sure you show up because I'm going to have a booth there. And y'all can come say hi, watch me forge in person, ask me questions in person. And then if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I will be doing one for Texas Farrier Supply the following weekend. I'm going to be doing a video talking about all this too, so that you'll actually have all of that. Yeah, I'll be in Conroe, and I'm going to be actually forging at my booth. So I'm at the forge, the anvil, all the hammers, all that stuff, all set up at the booth. I'll be forging there. So if you can be there, be there. And I'm going to be doing a full forge to finish build and all that. Okay, so what I want to do now is take a little bit of height out of this section here because we have a good profile, but I want to make it just a little bit sleeker throughout the middle section there. So I'm going to take a little bit of that height out. We've got our taper forged in there. So that's looking good. But what I want to do, take a little bit of height out of it, give that to length. So what I'm going to be doing to achieve the reduction of height and the addition to length is this. So whenever I'm forging, and I've got it on the spine on the anvil, what's going to happen is whenever I'm forging onto the edge here, it's going to create a subtle I-beam effect. It's going to mushroom this edge. And instead of flipping it onto its side and hammering that edge back in, because what that would do, if I hammer here, create an I-beam, and then hammer here, it's going to move that material. It's going to move that material to height and length. I only want it to go to length. So what I'm going to do is we're going to hammer. It's going to create a slight I-beam or mushroom effect on this edge. It's going to take it, flatten it out like this, make it to where it has pieces hanging off both sides. But what I'm going to do is whenever I come and lay it on its side, I'm going to be hammering at a slight angle, and I'm going to be moving that material down the edge. So I'm not just going to come in and hammer here, slight angle, push it down. Let's see here. Choose high quality grinder. Man, there's so many good grinders nowadays that even the cheap ones are fantastic. But you can get amazing ones. You can get I think it's a 2x82 or something like that off of Vivor. And then if you just cut the tooling arm, cut like an inch or so off the tooling arm, it turns into a 2x72. Okay, let's turn this anvil so that y'all can see what I'm doing here. So took some of that height out. Took some of the height out of there. So what that did was it flared out the cutting edge there. Now it's real thick. Like I said, what I'm going to do, we're going to heat it up one more time. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to hammer it. This is exaggeration. I'm not going to hammer that steep, but I'm going to hammer it at a slight angle going towards the tip. Okay? And it's going to move everything forward. Now what that's going to do, because we're primarily going to be moving the cutting edge material forward, we're going to primarily be moving that cutting edge material forward. So what that's going to do is that's going to extend the cutting edge, and it's going to take that tip, which is really centered right now, and whoop, it's going to kind of turn it into a banana. It's going to arch the spine. So we'll just correct that later. It's real easy to mess with that. We're not focused right now on trying to make it look exactly how it's supposed to look until I start planishing. At that point, everything needs to look beautiful. Right now we're still in the material manipulation phase. And yeah, Vivor does all kinds of great stuff. I have some of their tongs right here. I've got one of their anvils back here. They do great stuff. And what Miss Rivers said right there, that's what I'll be doing during that time. Okay, let's keep forging. So you can See right now, that's the profile. Watch what happens whenever I start hammering this. Now, our tip is up here. And we haven't even still haven't even forged it all the way back to the thickness that it was. And now, our tip kind of comes down a little bit. We don't want that. We want the spine to be pretty straight. So we'll heat it up one more time. Flatten it back out, straighten up the profile. We should be pretty close to good. Now, we don't want to get the profile to 99% done, because what's going to happen is I'm going to end up flipping it back to holding it by the blade and massaging the bolster area. So what's going to happen is we're going to be holding it with a set of tongs that can mar up the edges again of the spine and the cutting edge. So if I get it like perfect, and then I have to go and fix something with a file after that, it's going to screw me over. So I want to get the blade about 75-80% done. You'll hold it with the tongs, massage the rest of the stuff, get everything how I need it to be, and then I can go in and planish and fine tune the rest of it by holding it by the Tang, which we can make do whatever the heck we want. Because we're not worried about messing up the profile of the Tang. So what I did was I watched an episode of Forged in Fire where they had to make these, and I tend to make a lot of the builds that they have to do in their preliminary challenges just to see if I could do them in the time frame. Now, of course, the difference being a couple of things. If they're having to do a Samurai build, I'm not forge welding during this process. If they're having to do a Damascus build, I'm not having to do that. So the extra time that takes, I'm not having to do that. But I'm also not using my power hammer, and I'm not using a press. I'm doing it all by hand. If I had access to a press, or I was doing this utilizing the power hammer, these live streams would be like 30 minutes long. Who wants that? Nobody wants a 30-minute live stream. And it's more fun to watch me do this by hand, isn't it? Profile's looking good. I am going to end up moving that tip down just a little bit. I'm only going to move it down just a hair on this next heat, because again, I can always massage it a little bit more after we get done. So it's in water down here because what happens to these smaller bottles is even if it is 115 to 120 degrees in the shop, these act just like a, you know, the little air cans for cleaning computer desks, for cleaning computer desks, Wow, it's been a long day. I've been up since 4 a.m. So the compressed air, whenever you squeeze it down and hold it for a while, the bottom frosts up. Propane tanks do the same thing. If you've been forging for a couple of hours, the whole entire bottom will frost over and ice up, and it decreases the efficiency of the propane. So it'll run at a lower PSI. You put it in a bucket of water like this, it no longer freezes. So you can use your propane until it's done. Get a mini split. Let me tell you something. I would have a mini split and a heater. It would just be fighting each other, costing a whole bunch of electricity. By using a mini split and a fireplace at the same time. I'm not saying that I don't want a mini split, because I do. Almost there. Like the profile is looking pretty good. I'm gonna need to massage it a little bit more. Just a little bit of planishing. But I'm good with that for right now. Going into the actual bolster area. You see, I'm really critical of myself. So this is what the profile looks right now. Pretty much anybody could take this, go ahead, grind it into a perfectly, functional blade. But I am picky, and I want it to look a specific way. I do not want to have to grind it if I don't need to. But yeah, it's looking good. But listen here, one of these days I'm going to surprise you and I'm just going to do a backflip, dude. But welcome back. Awesome having you here. Is it Ellebeck? Is that how that's pronounced? But yeah, we need to go ahead and start working on that integral bolster a little bit more. And once I get that done, then we can go ahead and make sure that the blade is perfect and centered and all that stuff. But right now we need to get that bolster refined. So we're doing an integral bolster knife, and I forged it out of a flat bar. So we didn't start with the round bar. We didn't start with the big old billet. We had to upset the steel enough to create width to be able to have an integral bolster. you know, just doing things that, because I can. Y'all still talking about grinders? But yeah, there's a chance that my job might change a little bit, and I should have, if it does the way that I hope that it does, I will have weekends off, and I'll be able to get back to the normal Shop Talk Tuesday thing as much as possible. Of course, right now I'm going to be going through a whole bunch of different things. We're going to be doing a lot of live streams. I'm going to be filming at the show, at the different things. Y'all are going to get a lot of really cool videos and a lot of really cool content. It's not just going to be me being in the shop the whole entire time. Y'all are going to get stuff on the road. Y'all are going to get cool things of me forging in front of big old dragons. All kinds of stuff. You're going to get to see me wearing a kilt and all that. Talking with an accent and whatnot. Let's go ahead and switch to these tongs. So we need to start massaging this bolster area. I'm going to show y'all what I'm doing here in just a second and explain it. Okay, so if you see here, what I did was I created basically an I-beam. Now, of course, this steel in the center is still quite a bit wider than the steel here. It's still quite a bit wider. Don't worry about things being centered, like the spine being centered in the bolster. That all gets done at a different step. But right now, we were able to widen that area. So what I'm doing right now is I am putting a radius on this area here. I'm going to slightly round it all the way around. Keep forging it down a little bit, and we're going to have a really cool profile that ends up happening for that integral bolster area. And that'll look really cool whenever I actually put the front cap on here and then have the butt cap and all that. But we're just going to keep working that as we go, then get everything centered whenever we start doing the actual, what I would consider the bolster area. And you'll see how it turns into a really cool looking profile. This is a rather big knife. Yes, I'll be forging during the fair. So it is the Texas Ren Fair that happens. It's just north of, it's by Conroe, but it's just north of Houston. First of all, no, we're not gonna do that. And of course, whenever I get into character in an area where all of the people are in characters, I really get into character. Like, I really, really, really get into character. It's the same thing whenever if I'm in a Halloween costume or something like that, I play the character that I am in a Halloween costume. Doesn't matter how awkward it may seem. I get it. So the cool thing about Ren Fair voices, you don't use words like don't. You don't say can't. You don't say won't. You don't say ain't. Any of that stuff. You talk with full words. I cannot do this. You don't say over yonder, anything like that. You say the price is 29 pence. 29 pounds, 15 pence. You don't do any of the other stuff. But I'm not going to do the full-blown voice thing. Y'all will hear it whenever I'm there in the live stream talking around a bunch of other people that are doing it. And it's going to be probably awkward, but not awkward for me at all.
Good evening, fair board.
Listen here. Miss Rivers over here talking about it. She's doing it. But yes, you say lords and ladies. My lord, my lady.
How doth thou on this fine?
All those things. All I'm doing to radius this is I'm rocking it back and forth on the anvil. How doth thou want to proceed with thy forging experience? What doth thou want to make? So hopefully y'all can actually see this, but that bolster is fully radiused in there. So you can see how much it folds over there. So then there's still stuff that we need to do. So of course, we've got that radius. We're able to get a nice wide bolster. So we were able to get a nice wide bolster area. But we still need to create the transition from the bolster down into the blade. So what we're going to end up doing with that is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to flatten, there's one little bump here. I'll flatten that back down into it, but then I'm going to go ahead and lay this on the anvil with basically, I'm trying to think of the easiest way to do this. So I'm going to lay it on the anvil with the bolster. Maybe y'all can see it like this. I'm going to try and turn y'all to the point to where y'all can actually see this. Lay it on the anvil to where what is going to be the ricasso area, which is right here, is off the anvil, and I'm going to slightly, I've got an area that is rounded on the edge of this anvil, and I'm going to actually forge into this area and round off the edges that are raised up here and here. These edges that are raised up right here and up here, I'm going to round those off into the blade, and I'm going to center the blade up all at the same time and create a transition. I've got blades where I can actually show this to y'all. So this transition right here. I'm going to create a transition. It's not going to be as wide as this because that bolster area, it's a little bit, it's almost this wide, but the blade is thicker than this. But I'm going to create that transition where the area goes from the bolster down into the blade. That way I have a nice even transition all the way down there. That's a steak knife that I forged. Full integral. Handles fully forged. Yeah. How is thy mule? Thanks, my dear Lord. And you wouldn't even go with my dear Lord. You go, thanks, my Lord. Thanks, my Lord. Except for, I'm going to be like a rogue blacksmith whenever I do this. Okay, hang it off the anvil. Use our cross beam straight peen. Center up our cutting edge. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just straighten up the Tang area a little bit so that I can get a really good view down the spine. So I'm going to focus on the Tang just a little bit. Boop and snoots. Don't worry. She will be out here forging at some point. I'm not getting that close to the steel, so sometimes I do, but I want to show y'all something. Like, whenever I'm talking about something like this right here, Sometimes I'm talking about something like this right here. Right here. Sometimes I'm talking about something right there. Oh look, I'm touching the steel. I'm touching it. It's all about camera angles for a lot of the stuff. But yeah, sometimes I have been known to burn fingertips though, so I'm not going to say I never do that. Okay, now my tang is roughly where it needs to be. I'm going to go ahead and grab this from the tang and then finish forging the profile and cleaning everything up. You look at it right now, you see how the blade has a twist to it. Got kind of a helicopter propeller thing going on there. I haven't been worried about that. All I was worried about at this point was getting this section good and centered. So now our tang is centered from here to the tip of the tang. Don't care what the blade is looking like. I wanted to make sure the heel is centered in the bolster and with the tang. At that point, now all I got to do is make the profile clean and flat and look exactly how I want it to. The cool thing about this is going to have a really unique bolster area compared to if I was to have just started with the round bar and had your normal bolster area that happens whenever you start with a round bar. So like, this will be fine. So typically your integral bolster, you've got just a little bolster area, but there's not a whole lot going on here. It's just, it is radius on the spine and in the belly and all that, but it is just a flat area. This is going to look really cool going into the guard or the front cap that I'm going to have on this. It's going to look really cool. It's going to have a nice cool profile happening there. Go into the face of that. So I'm excited about that. I think this is going to look really unique. What's a good way to make finger choils? So I've got lots of videos on here, lots of the live streams in order to make them. If you're going to make a finger choil, so let's say, like I did this one right here, that finger choil, that was all forged. Basically, all you got to do, if you want to create that, is whenever you are forging your blade, you want to forge in your tip, figure out where the transition is going to be from your heel up into your finger choil. Put a little notch here, and take this, okay, take it like this, you're grabbing it from the tip, put it on the edge of the anvil, forge. You want the edge of your anvil up in this little groove here. What's going to happen is you're going to create a wedge like this. So basically, you have that piece of steel at an angle like this on there. So basically like that. You forge at an angle to the spine. So you forge at an angle. What'll happen is you'll create this wedge here, and then all you have to do from that point is take and flip your knife to the other side of your anvil. If you have, like me, I have a rounded side here. It's a little bit more round. And then I'll take and I will forge with the tip pointed out. And I'll come in and I'll forge with the anvil at this point up here, and I will gradually round it. So I'm hammering here, the anvil is right here, and I am just rocking it right here as I'm forging. And then what happens is the blade will be pretty straight. Whenever I take and I forge the arch back into it, it will make that angle a little bit more acute. It brings this heel, which was all the way out here, pulls it in, and gives you a finger choil. But I do have a lot of live streams and videos on here of me actually doing that. We have forged a lot of knives that have finger choils during these live streams. So you can see exactly how I did it with full explanations and everything if you watch those. It will answer a lot of your questions. Going through, cleaning everything up. Toss it in the vise for a second. All I did there was I just straightened up everything by putting it into the vise, holding it here, and then I just twisted the tang a little bit. It's probably easier if I do. I'll try and show this to y'all the best way possible here, without looking like a Halloween character. That right there is our knife with our integral bolster. Distal taper to the tip. That is our blade. If I did anything different to this, and if I do end up changing it a little bit, all I'm going to do is probably take about a 1/16 of an inch off of the edge here. That's about it though. I really like the profile of the spine. What's going on? How's the weather there in SoCal? That's what we were able to get. Let's see what length of blade we were able to get out of this. Using my short ruler. Aha! Okay. What was I aiming for, guys? What was I aiming for? 8.5 inches. Okay, see if I can. So we're at the heel. At the heel. Right there, 8.5 inches. So we were able to get that. So double click the screen. Yeah, see now. So that right there gives us what we need. Like I said, if I change anything, it would be actually just removing just a smidge off of the edge here. Just a smidge off of that, and I'd be happy with it. We have ourselves an integral bolster. I'm going to put this down. I'm going to grab my small ruler. Couldn't use it for the blade because it's only 6 inches long. But our bolster is just over 1/2 inch wide. Our spine is about 3/16 of an inch wide. So we're 3/16 of an inch wide on the spine at the actual what I would consider kind of like the ricasso area. We're 3/16 of an inch, and at the bolster we are just over 1/2 inch on top and bottom. And we were able to get a nice heel profile here where it goes from the bolster down to the heel. But what I'm talking about is that this is going to look really cool whenever I take and I clean up from here back and I put a cap that goes right to this. That profile is going to run into that cap there. I just think that's going to be kind of cool. So what length did I start with? I know. Let me go ahead and put this back in the forge so we can start. Well, might as well measure and see how long it is completely right now. So overall length of it right now is 12.5 inches. It's going to be longer because the tang is going to get forged out to a full through tang. So it's 12.5 inches right now. It'll end up being about 15 inches overall length whenever it's all said and done. But I started off with it almost an inch shorter than this piece of steel right here. See, I have a normal size ruler, but it's in the house somewhere. I think it's on my kitchen table. So this, it was an inch smaller than this. This is 9 inches. So the longest edge is 9 inches. The shorter edge is 7.5. And of course, 2 inches tall right there. So this would have been 8 inches long. So we started with 8 inches at the longest point of material. And we got 12.5 right now. So it's amazing what you can do with forging, being able to grow a piece of steel. And it's not even that we just got length. I was able to forge that bolster area in, and we got width as well. Let's see here. You can debate the difference between a knife and a sword. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, in Texas, you could really debate that because to us, you can walk around with a 3-foot long sword legally in Texas. So right now we're going to do an annealing phase, which is just bringing it up to 1600 degrees. Of course, whenever you're using a forge like this, if your forge, the internal temperature of your forge is like 1750 to 1800 degrees, what you want to do is you want to bring your blade up to about 1300, 1400, pretty much when it starts gaining that color, that like dull red, not orange or anything like that, that kind of dull red color. At that point, you want to turn the forge off, because what's going to happen is you're going to block off the forge. And the forge is going to slowly cool. But what will happen is it'll bring the blade up to about 1600 degrees and then let it cool slowly. If you heat your blade up to 1600 degrees and shut your forge off and close the forge, it's going to keep heating up to about 1800 degrees, and it's going to go past what you want it to. And it'll end up with a ton of forge steel. Turn that off. Lock off the top here. Nothing too crazy. And let that do its annealing phase. A lot of people don't think about that. A lot of people, whenever they go through and they do their annealing phase, they just bring it up to 1600, shut everything off. That thing will keep cooking and go all the way up to the temperature of the forge. And you don't want that. You don't want to anneal at 1800 degrees. It's not going to help you. Like I said, you'll end up with a ton of forge scale, and what can happen is the blade can actually stick to the fire brick, and you'll have to clean that up, especially if you've ever forge welded in your forge. What will happen is, as that material, that flux and stuff is cooling inside the forge, it'll actually melt and coat your blade and stick your blade to the floor of your forge. Learn that from experience. Okay, so we got our blade done. We were able to get our gaucho knife. Now this is going to be cool because this is definitely a build that whenever I go through and finish it, I think it's going to look really cool. Yeah, we do go, well, we go through about that many bottles because I also, use my grill a lot. So we do that too. Exactly what? Actually, I just didn't read the full thing that Miss Rivers typed out there. So yes, what she said. But that is our blade. That is, our gaucho knife. Hopefully that was helpful to somebody. Now, if you don't do the integral bolster section of it, if you're not going to do that and you're just going to forge it down and have one even thickness, you'll probably save about 35-40 minutes of this process because all you got to do is just forge it and keep everything flat as you go. You don't have to worry about trying to center things, because whenever you do an integral bolster knife, you have to think about things like centering the blade in the bolster, also doing a distal taper in that process as well. There's a lot of things that you have to move and adjust to make sure they're all even down the blade, and it adds a few extra steps to the actual process. If you don't do the integral bolster phase, you can get this blade knocked out pretty quick. So the only reason why I don't finish the blades live is because there's a lot of steps that happen in that process. So there's heat treating, there is handle making and construction and all that stuff, and those things take a long time. Just heat treating the blade takes a while, between doing the your normalizing and then your grain refinements, and then doing your quenching, and then having it in the oven tempering for 4 hours total. And then whenever I start doing the handle design, I could be in here for 3 hours just thinking through how I'm going to work the handle on this, and then starting to pre-drill and do all that stuff. I'll spend, 15 hours minimum on just the handle. So there's a lot that goes into a lot of the knives that I make, that if I tried to do them all in live streams, there would be a lot of times where we're sitting here for an hour and a half and all I'm doing is sketching stuff. It's not very interesting. It's just me there doing hardly anything. So yeah, but I do make videos on finishing some of the knives. I'm working on a video that's going to be releasing here soon on one of the ones where I am basically through the full heat treat, beveling, all that stuff on that blade. There'll be a video releasing, getting it through that phase, and there'll be another video that releases showing the actual handle material that I'm putting on it, profiling the handle, the glue ups, all that stuff, cutting stuff with it. So there'll be videos showing both of those things. That blade will be done, and I'm just gradually working through the other blades as well. But yeah, you'll see me putting a handle on a blade here within the next week or so. Plus, I have, if you go back and look at my videos, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've got like almost 600 videos on the channel. And I've got videos just dedicated to attaching and profiling handles on a variety of styles of knives. So if you just go into my About Me page, my home screen page for the Rivers Experience, and you type in handle, you'll see dozens of videos, me showing you how to profile a handle, how to do all of the full construction of it, everything. The glue up, what epoxies I use, how I profile, what makes things work, profiling, ergonomics, all that stuff. I have videos about all of that. What's up, Jericho? It's my nephew right there. So he just got into knife making, which is absolutely awesome. But yeah, there's a ton of videos on there showing you the ins and outs of all the different parts of knife making. I don't time lapse through them unless it's a part where I can time lapse. I do a lot of explanation, a lot of breakdowns on exactly what I'm doing in the processes, and really make them as educational as possible. So you've got hours of videos that you can watch on just applying handles to everything from through tangs to full tangs to hidden tangs, ones with finger choils, without them, ones that have Coke bottle profiles, ones that are made with micarta handles, carbon fiber, wood, all those things. You got tons of videos to watch. That's awesome that you were getting into the forging part of it. I think that that is epic, Jericho. How you feeling? How's your arm? And you'll have to send me some pictures of what y'all were able to forge. So we have the knife annealing in the forge right now. The old gaucho. It's all good. You know, again, the cool thing about these live streams is they turn into videos after they are finished. So whenever I finish this, which I'm about to do here soon, they will actually turn into a video and you can watch it from there. That's awesome, man. You'll have to send me some video of you forging. Have them film you a little bit during that process so that I can actually see you forging. Yeah, send me that. But guys, I am going to go inside and I'm going to get myself some food. I am starving. It's been a really long day. Got to get up in the morning about 4 a.m. Get back to work. You know how it goes. Whew, guys. Y'all stay safe. Y'all be awesome. Hold on, what was it? Curious about doing guards, fittings, handles. So, real quick, so you know, I also have videos on that as well. On doing hidden tangs with guards and fit ups and all of that stuff. Filing things, profiling things, doing all of that. So, I've got all of that and several videos on the actual channel. So you've got plenty of things that you can actually watch and see how it's going. Plus, I give suggestions to other channels during those videos for if there's somebody that does something better than me and explains it better. I also give you links and explain who to go and watch for certain things as well. So if I think that there's somebody who does particular parts of handles better than me, I give you those suggestions as well. Let's make it a little bit easier on you. So hopefully all that's helpful. But yes, I'm going to go inside. I'm going to get myself some food. Y'all have an amazing week. Just the tips. Y'all have an amazing week. Y'all stay safe out there, and I will catch y'all, if not this week on Tuesday or Wednesday for one of the Shop Talk Tuesdays. It'll be for next weekend during the live stream. Y'all stay safe. I'll catch y'all later. See y'all.